Okay, so this next question comes from Jubilee, and Jubilee wrote in because she wants to know how to rescue her sister from an abusive relationship with this much older guy that she's dating. She's witnessed him throwing her to the ground and everything. And I answer this question not only just because I've never even touched on this subject before, but because it just pissed me off so much. I sent this question actually to a friend of mine who said that it made her shake with anger just reading the question. And I can't even, I mean, it's really hard for me to even comprehend the thought of anyone hitting anyone at all. I mean, the thought of someone hitting my sister, I'd end up on death row. Like, I'd go completely fucking berserk. So, anyway, I think you're a great sister for caring and for writing in. And I do have a lot of thoughts on this. Firstly, this is not normal behavior, and I say that because what you described is actually the quintessential cycle of violence in an abusive relationship. You described that they fight, and then there's a honeymoon phase where he buys her stuff, and then the tension builds again, and it repeats and repeats and repeats. And you know, I say it's not normal, and I think that's kind of obvious to a lot of people out there. But if you've been raised in an environment of violence and you're around it, you might not have the perspective. Like, chances are this guy, this total douchebag, he was probably abused himself, and that's just how it goes. So you can kind of understand it. Definitely can't excuse it, but I think it's important to point out that this isn't normal and that you're right when you see this, and to think that you have to do something, because you do. That honeymoon phase, that's normalcy. You're dating someone, you describe them as dating for 9 months. He should be buying your stuff, like, every day anyway. Like, that's just a normal relationship, okay? Secondly, I guess for girls watching this, I kind of want to warn you. You probably already know this, but I just want to reiterate, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you don't just walk into an abusive relationship. Like, it's after months usually of kind of strange mind games and manipulation, and then you find yourself kind of feeling guilty and not blaming the guy who's hurting you. And I just think it's common sense, but in case it isn't, I want everyone who's watching this to maintain just a zero strike policy. In other words, like, someone hits you once, ever, I don't care what the circumstances are, who they are, what led up to it, you call the fucking cops and you have them arrested. Like, we're living in a civilized society, okay? So in Chicago, it used to be actually kind of difficult. You'd call the cops, they'd come, and you'd have to press charges. And a lot of these women, by the time the cops arrived, their heads were spinning so much, turned around. By the time the cops got there, they couldn't do it. They couldn't press charges against their husbands or their boyfriends. So that law has changed, and now the cops press their own charges. If they show up and they see any signs or evidence, or there's any witnesses, and they get the impression that someone's been abused, they'll just bust the guy right there, which I think is wonderful. So do not hesitate ever to call the police. Your safety is the number one most important thing. I have a couple links for you in terms of how to get your sister out of this relationship. It's a lengthy process. I don't want to go into it, but it's involved, and you got to stay with her, and it's it's going to take some time. But the sites that I have for you, well, first of all, there's a phone number. There's National Domestic Violence Hotline. In your question, you mentioned that they worked at a bar, not a pub. So I'm assuming when you say bar that you live in America. So anyway, that hotline is good for all 50 states, 24/7. So call that. If anyone out there is going through anything similar and you live in another country, check out this website. It's called hotpeachpages.net. hotpeachpages.net. It sounds silly, but it's actually a great site, and it shows international hotlines and resources for anybody going through this. I call it my friends who work at DoSomething.org, and they recommended, they're part of a coalition of great charities and organizations, and they recommended you check out a couple websites. One of them is rainn.com, RAINN, and the other is called loveisnotabuse.com. So check those out, and good luck. Focus on your sister. Let me focus on that old dude. Like, seriously, if anything else happens, please write in. I can safely say that in America, in just about every major city, I know a couple big dudes who pretty much jump at the chance to deliver a message to this like old douchebag. So don't hesitate. We have your back. But thank you so much for writing in. Thank you for being such a good sister.